Okay, you guys.
Called Abraham's bosom, but he was
We're
locked
back.
in there. The only one who had the key to let all of those in captivity out was Jesus Christ. So it is impossible for this woman to bring up Samuel, the
We're gonna go
real
to Alaska.
Samuel.
Well, we're gonna
Impossible.
go. Hold on.
It was a imposter posing as Samuel, familiar spirit.
Ontario,
So
Canada.
God said, Leviticus 19:31,
Oh, that would be nice.
regard not them that have familiar spirits. So right away, we're talking about Stephen Greer, we're talking about Grant Cameron. He was at the MUFON conference this year. He was there. I don't know if he's an experiencer. I know he's seen some things. He's done a lot of research. He's talked to a lot of people, especially people who have a lot of knowledge, military people, government people, things like that. David Paulides is there. I'm going to tell you about him in a moment. But just some names that I knew. Mike Cleland, I think is his name, or David, something like that. He's who I call the owl guy, and I'll try to explain that in a little bit too. But anyway, all these people there, and the theme of MUFON this year was ETs, friend or foe. And so I would basically use that theme when people came by and they wanted to talk to me and just ask me questions about what are these DVDs about anyway? What is this thing? And then I would just just try to explain some things from the Bible. And I said, the theme of this conference this year is, are they friends or are they foe? And I said, if you ask me, they're foes. I said, I think they have a malicious intent in coming here. They're doing things that clearly, if they were a human doing this, we'd put them in prison. They're taking people against their will. They're assaulting them by forcing them to partake in medical things that they did not give permission. See, you can't even get surgery. You can't have a toenail removed in this country without signing a waiver, signing a permission document that gives the surgeon the ability to cut on you and you have to sign that paper. Well, the aliens don't hand us a document saying, here, sign this so we can abduct you. They don't do that. They're stealing men. They're kidnapping people. Anyway, I think they're both. Some people agreed. Some people just kind of walked away. Regard not them that have familiar spirits. So these people have familiar spirits.
I was trying to go for a more.
Or they are being led by, or they have sought out familiar spirits.
Hold on a second. Oh.
If you listen to the sermon that I preached Sunday, my daughter's uploading it today.
Oh well.
I was dealing with the principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness of this world. And Lisa and I and Olivia and Will with us. Thank you guys. Appreciate your help. Love you to death. Couldn't have done it without you. They were with us at the table, and there was a woman there, and I'm not gonna give out her name, and I'm not going to tell you what book she wrote, because I made a promise to her, in spite of everything that happened. I made a promise to her that if I disagreed with what she wrote in the book, that I would talk about it on my podcast, but I would not make it personal. I don't like the idea, and this really rubbed her the wrong way. I don't like the idea of just blasting down on some woman, especially she's married, got kids, Well, I'm not going to get into a yelling, screaming match with her.
Not
I'm
you.
not going to try to belittle her. I'm not going to stand there in front of everybody and chew her out. That's uncool, all right? And, but anyway, she was an experiencer of a different kind. And we got a copy of her book. Lisa was reading it when we were coming back Saturday. She got to a place and she started reading it out loud to me. And I'm just shaking my head driving down the highway. This Southern Baptist
That
minister's wife basically started making phone calls to spirits when she was 5 years old. And by phone call, you know I mean that she was in some way channeling or in contact with familiar spirits since she was 5 years old. Her experience inside of a standard American Baptist church is not a mystery to me now. Some would say, well, she lost her salvation. Some would say, oh, you can't lose your salvation. She's still going to heaven, even though she doesn't believe in God anymore, doesn't believe the Bible, doesn't believe Jesus Christ, doesn't believe in the blood atonement, doesn't believe in the doctrines of the scriptures, doesn't believe any of that stuff. She's still going to heaven. No. No. She was what is referred to in the scripture as a false brother. False brethren. She pretended. And pretended well. But her life has been turned over to these familiar spirits for most of her life.
That's so wrong.
So regard not them that have familiar spirits. I have her book. But I'm not going to go, oh, you mean I'm wrong about, being a Christian and a pastor, and maybe I want an experience like this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to read what she says so I can tell you and warn you, be careful. Don't fall for this. There's no doubt in my mind that God sent her a sign or a wonder. Deuteronomy 13, that would either drive her into the arms of God or drive her into seeking after other gods, plural. Deuteronomy 13. God basically said, I'm going to send you a false prophet, a dreamer of dreams. And he's going to show you a sign or a wonder. And if it comes to pass, he's going to say, let us go after other gods. God said, don't follow that man. I sent him there to prove you. So you can show me, the world. God already knows it. But you're going to prove it to yourself. Whether you love me and love my statutes or not. That was the test that God gave this woman and her husband. They had a choice. After the experience that she had, she could have said, you know what? I'm rebuking that. There ain't no way in the world I want any part of that. And I think God would have favored her. But she's got a familiar spirit. Neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. And by the way, what do you need a familiar spirit for that's going to lie half the time it's talking to you? It's going to deceive you. It's going to blind you. It's going to cover your eyes. Why do you need something like that when you can have the Lord God? Amen. Chapter 20, verse 6, the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits. And after wizards. Look at the phrase, to go a-whoring after them. Think about that. In reality terms, we like to say, yeah, that expression there, going whoring after them, it's sort of symbolic of how people who are supposed to love God Jesus Christ, who is the bridegroom, how we're supposed to love Christ, but we kind of have this other God, and we love that God more than we love Jesus. You know, I've been in church all my life, you know, and you know, Jesus knows me and I know Jesus, but you know, every now and then I want something different. That's what the adulterer says. Yeah, we've been married 30 years, but every now and then I want a new pair of shoes. Okay? And so they do. And some people walk out on Christ and go after other gods, and the Bible would say they're going whoring after that God. And I accept that. But let's take it one more step. What's the literal meaning of the phrase to go whoring after them? If somebody's daughter was getting rebellious and promiscuous, and she ends up going to a party and harlots herself at that party to multiple people, we would say she went whoring after them. And that would be the literal definition of that term. So now let's take that now and go up one step. Suppose that the daughter is now being contacted by spirits looking like beautiful
Okay, you guys, I'm gonna like I was saying, I won't be playing this game, but I'll just let you enjoy the music while I do this. Maybe making a sandwich.
handsome men,
and then building the set.
beautiful women. And in a Genesis 6 fashion, go whoring after those entities, those princes, those gods, thus fulfilling Daniel chapter 2, where they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. What are the possibilities of that happening? I'd say rather high. Deuteronomy 20 verse 27, a man also or a woman that hath a familiar spirit, or that is a wizard, shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones, their blood shall be upon them. God's not playing around with this. It is the death penalty. Now you stop and think about that for a minute. It is the death penalty to go after a familiar spirit and to follow it. The sentence of death is upon you. Think about it now. This particular pastor's wife, I'll give you a brief rundown of her story in case you didn't hear it Sunday. Her and her husband, they had, I don't know, 2 or 3 kids, something like that. She suffered from several different chronic illnesses, and I didn't really catch all of the medical part of it. My wife knows more about it than I do. But one afternoon, she was they lived in a trailer house in, I won't say the state, but anyway, she said that she heard what she thought was a gunshot, and it sounded like it was inside her head. She immediately collapsed on the couch, and for a while she's lucid. She's like, okay, I'm paralyzed here, can't do anything. I don't know if I'm breathing or not. Trust me, I've been through something like this. You think things very clearly,
Yes.
when I was being electrocuted, because I'm like, okay, I'm being electrocuted. Now what? I can't move. I can't move. I can't see anything. I can't hear anything because my eardrums are vibrating so loudly, and so I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I just know I'm not breathing. And when that dawned on me, I'm going like, okay, you're gonna die today, Mike. This is it. Okay. But anyway, um, and what they found out had happened was she had a tear in two blood vessels or arteries or whatever that supply her brain. And she claims that she died there on her living room couch. She died, and instead of going through the tunnel to the light and seeing heaven and Jesus and God and their
I
little
think I
dog,
know who
you
he's
know, like
talking
she
about.
had when she was 6, and all these things that people say is going to be waiting for them in heaven. You know, their Aunt Lou is going to be there, and you know their cousins and some of their friends from high school. They're all going to be in heaven waiting for us there. She didn't see any of that. She woke up in a place that she called in the book outer darkness.
Dun, dun, dun.
Outer darkness. That's where God sends all the people who don't do right. This is where God sends the sinners to a place of outer darkness. There should be weeping and gnashing of teeth. She said it was dark, so dark she couldn't see her hand. She said she tried to clap her hands, but they just passed through each other. She was disembodied or something like that. And she was about to panic because she was expecting Jesus and the city of heaven and New Jerusalem and all that stuff, and it wasn't there. So all of a sudden now she feels an entity is behind her, a masculine male entity. He had no form, he had no features, and of course it's totally dark. And this entity told her, hey, look, you're not going to be here forever. So that was a relief to her. But he said, I got to show you something. So they start flying away somewhere in this place that she called the void, where it was absolutely, totally dark. And when I read this on the back of her book, and as I was talking to her, I pulled my phone out because somebody, I won't mention names, somebody bought me a copy of the book, and I went to the table where they were, and this person and this pastor's wife was talking, and I went over there and I told them thank you for the book, and the pastor's wife said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay. So I started asking her a few questions. And, for a minute or two, it was a cordial back and forth. When I told her that I had read the back of the book, and I said, actually, what you described here on this page is almost word for word in the Bible. So I've got my phone out, and I'm holding it like this. I've pulled up the book of Job, and I'm holding my phone, and it's clearly got the scriptures on it. But the way I'm holding it, I'm talking with, using my hands and things like that, and she immediately, when I pulled scripture up, the whole tenor of the conversation changed. The whole tone of it. And her reactions to me was altogether different now. And she sees the phone and she immediately goes, are you recording me? And I went, no, I wouldn't do that. Not without your permission. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't be able to use it anyway if I did. She immediately got defensive. So I read to her from the book of Job. I'll show you what I read to her. And to me, it describes perfectly what she went And in verse 20, are not my days few? Cease then and let me alone, that I may take comfort a little. Before I go whence I shall not return, even to the land of darkness and the shadow of death, a land of darkness as darkness itself, and of the shadow of death, without any order, where the light is as darkness. That's where she was. Complete, absolute darkness. No, she called it the void. And I said to her, I said, ma'am, it clearly points out that this is a place of not even light could show up in there. And I said, it's chaos. It has no order. And I said, you called this place the void. And I said, to me, that's a match. It's a place without order. And she said, oh, it had order to it. And I'm like, I did it like a dog thing. Huh? And she said, God was all encompassing me. She had God down in the void with her. I don't think so. And I guess the implication was that masculine entity behind her I'm assuming it would have been who she thought was God. But anyway, as I'm talking to her and she's being on the defensive and I'm having to kind of ratchet it up a little bit, I finally stopped myself and I said, ma'am, I have more things to say to you. I said, but it wouldn't be appropriate without your husband. I said, he is your head, and I can only say something if he's standing here with you. And she went, wow, really? You know, very sarcastic tone, like, are you so ignorant as to bring that up? And right then, I'm going, okay, I know who this is. This is Belle. This is Belle. And I ended up saying it again because I started accusing her. And I stopped myself. I said, no, I can't say any more to you without your husband being here. He's the head. And she's like flipping out over this. And I said, you have a good day, and I walked out. Now, I went and sat down, and I told Will, I said, Will, stay here with me. You got plans? He said, no. I said, stay here with me. He said, why? I said, I think I'm fixing to get beat up. He said, what? And I told him what had happened. I said, I think she had left, and I'm thinking she's going to go get her husband. He's probably about 6'8", weighs 300 pounds, and it's all muscle. Okay? He looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Coming out there, are you crazy? Will you talk to my wife like this? I mean, I didn't. So, no, and he never showed. He never showed. Now, me, if somebody would have talked harshly to my wife in a situation like that, I would have been there. I would have showed up after I heard about it and said, hey, you got a problem? You got a problem with my wife? Then you have a problem with me. Now tell me what your problem is. I mean, I probably would have confronted somebody over it. Never saw the guy. Don't even know what he looks like now. But I'm telling you, that spirit on her and in her and around her is dangerous to people. And the thing is, she's writing this book. She has a high place in the MUFON organization. And she works with other experiencers and people who have had near-death experiences. Now, I don't believe that she actually went down to hell. I don't believe that. I don't believe people die and go to heaven and they talk to Jesus for a while and Jesus says, I'm going to send you back. How's that?
Biblical. Ugh.
And you can say what you want. You can be mad at me if you want. I don't believe it. I don't buy it.
You don't have
It is
to, but
appointed unto man once to die. After this, the judgment.
appointed doesn't mean they will only die once.
You show me somebody
Ugh.
that died, went to heaven, and God sent them back. after they died.
You talked to
Well,
them.
that would be Jesus. But anyway, you get my point. Okay? Let's see here. Deuteronomy 18.
You just got to study the Holy Bible a little bit more.
You know the 9 fruits of the Spirit?
Paul
These
did
are
it.
the 9 fruits of the devil. There should not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or daughter pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. 9 things. 9 fruits of the devil. It basically says a consulter with familiar spirits. And let me tell you the gist of her story. She let an experience, a dream, she let that talk her completely out of all things Christian and all things Bible. Not only that, she talked her husband into it to leave. He believed, you know what I see here? She's Eve. She took the bite. She's given it to her husband, Adam. And he bit it. Why? Because his wife did. That's what I see. Because he then leaves the Southern Baptist Convention, leaves the church, never to come back. That's the way it looks. So she consulted with a familiar spirit, this masculine entity that's behind her. She consulted with that. And basically, I don't know, I haven't finished the book. But I think now that everything that she's doing with her life all points back to that experience that she had. The day that she stopped believing Scripture. The day she stopped believing what God said. So, she is a consulter with familiar spirits. And they tell her what they want her to do. She does it. 1 Samuel, all this is the story of Saul and Samuel. Seek me a woman that hath the familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And the servant said unto him, behold, there's a woman that hath the familiar spirit at Endor. Her name is Endora. And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee. And the woman said unto him, behold, thou knowest what Saul hath done, how he hath cut off those that have familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then layest thou a snare for my life, to cause me to die? And Saul sware to her by the Lord, saying, as the Lord liveth, there shall no punishment happen to thee for this thing. Then said the woman, whom shall I bring up unto thee? And he said, bring me up Samuel. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice. And the woman spake to Saul, saying, why hast thou deceived me? For thou art Saul. And the king said unto her, be not afraid, for what sawest thou? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. Gods. Not Samuel. Gods is what she saw. Let's see here. This is Manasseh. He made his son pass through the fire and observed times, used enchantments, and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. It's interesting that these are often seen together, wizards and those who have familiar spirits. Several places already that we've seen. Moreover, the workers with familiar spirits and the wizards. There it is again. And the images and the idols and all the abominations that were spied in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem did Josiah put away, and he put that he might perform the words of the law which were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. A book that this pastor's wife and her husband walked away from. I asked her the question, do you still believe in God? She said, yeah. I said, you believe in heaven? yes. I said, you believe in hell? She said, yes. And I said, so then who determines who goes where? And she said, I don't know. That was at the beginning of our conversation. That was a, even though it was a disagreement, it was a pleasant exchange of ideas, conflicting ideas, but it was pleasant. It wasn't until I pulled the Bible out that things went different. Whew. Let's see here. Saul died. His transgression which he committed against the Lord, even against the word of the Lord, which he kept not, and also for asking counsel of one that had a familiar spirit to inquire of. See, it wasn't Samuel. It was a familiar spirit.
Okay.
Let's see here. Isaiah 8:19. And when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits and unto wizards, there it is again. Familiar spirits and wizards that peep and that mutter, should not a people seek unto their God, from the living to the dead, to the law, to the testimony? They speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. Look at that! Look at that! Look at that! There it is, right there. Seek unto them that have familiar spirits and unto wizards that peep and that mutter. And should not a people seek unto their God, from the living to the dead, to the law, to the testimony? If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. It wasn't just the place that she thought she was in that was dark. That darkness extends all the way into her being. She's been born again out of incorruptible seed. Yeah, I know what I'm saying. She has been born again to a new way of seeing. See, when you live a Christian life, you see the world, and everything comes into the categories that the Bible lays out as good and bad. Holy versus unclean. That's how you see everything. When you leave that, you leave that behind.
You guys, I'm gonna do this later. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next video.
Life. You've made a
Peace out.
transition. You've gone through the waters. And her initiation into this was that brain aneurysm that she had. That was her transition. That was